Here to react is Stuart Holliday, former U.S. Ambassador for Special Political Affairs to the UN, and Nile Gardiner, Director of the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Ambassador Holliday, let me start with you. What did you think of the president's speech today?
Well, I thought it was an important marker. He was essentially saying that what the United States believes is cooperation between sovereign countries is more important than creating, global or supranational institutions. And I think that's an important distinction. He's saying if we're healthy, our economy's strong at home, we have strong borders, and other countries have the same thing, that we're going to have a more secure world. But I think it also questioned, of course, well, how will we use the United Nations? Of course, we know what we're against, but we also have to figure out how we want to lead within that international body.
Nile, though, I thought he made that argument also, because he talked about the fact that, the governing principle is supposed to be freedom. And he said, we respect other nations' rights to worship as you like, have the customs that you like, to live as you like. That is your freedom. We have our freedom. And, he said all nations should be pursuing what is in their own nation's best interest. And he really made the case that that doesn't have to be pursuing your own best interest. America is still very generous. It doesn't have to be mercenary, that you're pursuing your best interest to the exclusion of other nations and to hurt them, but that it's just kind of an honest assessment of where everybody's coming from. You look out for your people, we'll look out for ours, and let's all respect each other's freedom. What did you think of that argument?
Yeah, I think the theme of national sovereignty, self-determination was at the very heart of this speech by President Trump. I thought this was a very powerful address by the president. It was very different, I think, in style and content to the typical UN address by President Obama over the last few years, which were very confusing, I think, in their messaging and rather wishy-washy, I would say. So President Trump projected real strength, I think, and resolve in this speech. He stood up for U.S. interests, and he made it very clear the United States will respect the sovereignty of other nations, but at the same time, don't threaten U.S. national sovereignty. And I think he made that very clear to the Iranian leadership today. And I think Iran was also a very big part of this speech, a very tough message sent to the Iranian regime, designed as well to directly appeal to the Iranian people, who are increasingly standing up to their own dictatorship there.
So, Ambassador, that was where he took it next, because he said, look at the Iranians. They are bad neighbors. They are not respecting borders around them. They don't respect their neighbors. And they don't respect their own people, to say the very least, that they are robbing their own people of the money that they need to sustain themselves, and that it's really as advocates of their people as well that we all need to get up together and stand up against the Iranian power. Did he make that argument in your mind?
He did. I think in the past, the argument's been made that the nuclear issue and what Iran does in the neighborhood in terms of intervening or threatening its neighbors in the region, that those are separate issues. And I think what he's done is sort of brought those back. It connects the sovereignty theme again, which is that you can't support groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and basically maintain that you're looking out for the interests of your people. And I think he is speaking, as we've done in the past, directly to the Iranian people to draw a distinction between how we feel about them versus the regime.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what do you think, Nile, what do you think that achieves? And do you think the Iranian people hear that message? Because we really have so little information about what's going on inside, what they're hearing, what they're doing. We look to Israel for a lot of that information, but do you think that they're hearing any of that message within Iran itself?
Well, that's a good question. I would imagine that a lot of Iranians would actually agree wholeheartedly with some of the messaging from President Trump today about the nature of the dictatorship in Tehran. And I think what you have seen since the reimposition of U.S. sanctions against Iran is the Iranian regime acting in an increasingly desperate fashion. It's in economic dire straits at the moment. A second wave of sanctions is coming in on November the 5th that will target Iran's oil industry. This is a regime that is in very deep economic trouble, and there's growing public discontent in Iran. And I think this was a direct appeal to the Iranian people, who are increasingly unhappy with with the Iranian government. So I think a very clever speech on many fronts actually today, and it's going to have a long-term impact in Iran itself.
It was. He did a great job of making their argument. This isn't about religion. It isn't about who you worship. It's about the fact that you're oppressing your own people. You're threatening your neighbors. We all need to respect each other's freedom, and we're going to hold you to that. It's an interesting day. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Appreciate it.